haven't got a chance. I call him.
The time is now 7 o'clock.
A woman in her 60s died after she was hit by an electric scooter. The scooter at the time of the accident, well, it had two people riding it together, which is against the law. And these e-scooters, they have been dubbed kiklani, kickboard plus gorani, a type of water deer that pops out onto the road. These e-scooters can be highly dangerous for the riders, the drivers out there also, plus pedestrians. And unlike the water deer in the wild, there is definitely something that we can do to make these personal mobility devices safer. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Thursday, July 18th on befm 부산영어방송. Good morning, wavers out there. Welcome to our program. I hope you're all doing well. I wish I could bring you some good news today, but we're going to begin with this story, this horrible e-scooter accident that happened earlier this month. And so we are talking about, this terrible story, this e-scooter accident that happened earlier this month. And before we get into that story, I do understand there's a lot of heavy rain that has pummeled the capital area. You've probably seen it on the news, heard about it as well, especially in the capital area, pummeling parts of our country. And I know we have many listeners that listen from all over. I hope you're all doing well. And we're going to cover that also during our news. But back to this main story at hand today, this terrible e-scooter accident. The Gyeonggi Ilsan Dongbu police said that it has booked two teenagers on professional negligence resulting in death. Those are the official charges. These two girls were riding one e-scooter together at a park in Goyang. They hit a couple in their 60s while riding on a bicycle trail. The couple, they were rushed to a hospital. However, the wife died 9 days after the accident, and the husband is still undergoing treatment. And the police said that the girls had swerved to avoid hitting a bicycle, but they ultimately ended up hitting the two pedestrians. Neither was wearing a helmet, and they did not have the relevant motorcyclist license as well. Safety issues surrounding these e-scooters. We've talked about them for so long. As long as these personal mobility devices have been around. And there was another case in Gwangju earlier this month where a man who fell off an e-scooter was hit by a car and ultimately died. You know, there are laws and safety regulations surrounding these devices, but the thing is they often go unheeded as we often see on the road. And the authorities say that they are looking into changing the available maximum speed on urban roads from 25 kilometers per hour down to 20 kilometers per hour. Yes, that may help, but I think it really does fall on all of us, every single person out there, especially the riders, to make sure that they're following all the necessary laws, rules, regulations, to follow just human decency, to follow all the precautions necessary so that, we don't have to report on these stories anymore. I mean, just think about this. Yes, I know they're teenagers, but two on one e-scooter, they weren't wearing the helmets. It was just an accident waiting to happen. So that's why we're reporting on this story. Let's switch gears. For our text topic today, we're going to talk about this. It is summer, and this used to be kind of the season of horror flicks, scary movies, right? So let's do our own horror special for our text topic today. First of all, do you get scared easily? Do you believe in ghosts? Ooh. Also, can you watch a scary movie all by your lonesome self? 자, 예전에 여름 하면 공포와 남양 특집의 계절이었죠. 우리끼리 네, 남양 특집 토픽. 여러분은 겁 많으신가요? 귀신이 있다고 믿으시는지? 귀신이 생각만 해도 저는 무서워요. 그리고 마지막으로 나는 혼자 공포 영화 볼 수 있다? 없다. 저는 생각만 해도 조금 혼자는 조금 힘들 것 같아요. Watching horror films by myself, I love horror thriller movies. On my own, not so much so. Anyhow, you can send in your messages to BFM's live stream, live chat on YouTube. What you need to do, you need to go to YouTube, subscribe, and then you log in and you can chat away in our chat room. It's very, very lively, I promise you. Pound 9050, it's going to cost you 101. You can reach me for free on Kakao Talk. Same thing, you got to search for BEFM or 부산영어방송. Also, 90.5 or 103.3 FM on the radio. Once again, YouTube live in real time right now. You can check us out anytime on that platform at your leisure. You can also use the Patbang app as well. It is Thursday. What do we have for you? We have Lydia with Beyond the Headlines. We have also Jennifer coming in for Skills 101 today for our special interview. Now that we are well into the second half of the year, we're going to take an economic outlook for the second half of 2024. What can we expect? Because ultimately, we want to know, what can we expect for the country and ultimately households? What can we expect economically? That's coming up in hour number 2 with our expert. And now we have today's headlines. It is now 7:07. These are today's headlines. Heavy rain pummels capital area with additional 200 millimeters forecast. Further rain is forecast for today and tomorrow with up to 200 millimeters coming down over the capital area and Chungcheong. Heavy rain warnings have been issued over Cheolwon in Gangwon, Yeoncheon, Paju, Goyang, Gimpo in Gyeonggi, and Incheon. KHNP selected preferred bidder for nuclear plants in the Czech Republic. Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power KHNP has been selected as preferred bidder to build 2 nuclear power plants in the Czech Republic. National Assembly Speaker proposes direct vote for constitutional amendment. In a speech celebration Constitution Day yesterday, Woo Won-sik officially proposed President Yoon Suk-yeol to hold talks with the National Assembly to discuss the amendment, which would include 2 4-year terms for the president. Arrest warrant sought for Kakao's Kim Bum-soo for SM price rigging. Seoul Southern District Prosecutor's Office has requested an arrest warrant for Kakao founder Kim Bum-soo yesterday over allegations that he attempted to manipulate stock prices for SM Entertainment. U.S. shuts down floating Gaza pier as bombardment continues. The U.S. military has ended $230 million floating aid pier off the coast of Gaza, which has been heavily criticized during its 2-month operation. And these are today's headlines. All we have Haley in the studio for Busan Updates. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we're talking about all things kind of scary, horror films. First of all, do you believe in 귀신, ghosts? This I want to know. I'm curious.
No, because if I did,
Yes.
I'd be so scared out of my mind all the time, consistently, because, like there are noises like the house settling,
Yes.
the creaks, and just unexplainable, not immediately explainable things. And I would freak out every single time.
And
But then I'd probably try to talk to the ghost too. So, like, what brings you here? Why
You
not
would
the
chat away
afterlife? Yeah.
to the ghosts.
Yeah.
And can you watch a horror film by yourself?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so I watched Pamyo by myself. And because it's partly by choice and partly not. So I think I really like horror movies. Not the gory ones, but like the thrillers, the psychological thrillers,
Yes.
and like supernaturals, because there's that adrenaline rush that you only get from horror movies. Right? But no one in my very small social circle watches horror movies like at all.
At all?
So they all refuse to go with me.
Oh, so it's not
for
by choice.
me, right? So for me, especially at Pamyo, because that was like going towards Cheonman, and I was like, well, I can't be the one person, in the country that hasn't seen it. So my FOMO overpowered my actual fear.
I see,
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna do it. So I went to like this very crowded multiplex at a very crowded time, so people would be around me. I'm like,
So you're kind of by yourself, but not really.
I was surrounded. Yeah.
Got it. All right. We're going to jump into our first update. Excuse me. Busan City is working on a new urban aesthetic, and this is minimalism.
Right. So Busan City is working to improve the general visual aesthetics of the streets by kind of whittling down the unnecessary aspects and going for this clean look. So the city selected the area around Busan Station for the pilot program. So for safety, Busan City will remove public structures that may get in the way of people who are walking or driving. So this would include unnecessary signage, post utility boxes, and whatnot. And then at the same time, speaking of signage, the city's looking to kind of update and revamp the signs because, this is completely subjective. However, there are signs that are old, tattered, lights partially out and
Yes.
spelling different things than what they intended, and up to just different colors and whatnot.
Yes.
So you would say they are not aesthetically pleasing, or kind of a cluster of signs that may not be so great for a street visual. So the city is going to take recommendations from districts and counties respectively and pick out 2 to 3 areas for a pilot program to update these signs for a more unified look. Because, and I think also we can kind of maybe look at language too, like what kind of language is used. I'm talking Korean versus English or even Japanese.
Sure.
Because in areas like, Insadong in Seoul and then in Gyeongju, I think they have it by law where all the signs have to have Korean.
Yes.
And then they can have English partially.
Right.
So, maybe things like that, making it more clear to the viewer what store they're looking at. In any case, the city will replace some with signs that are unique to the area's respective history and cultures. And they'll provide financial support for design development and improving the exterior of the building. So Busan City will pay for half the cost of replacing the signs, and then the respective local governments plus the businesses will pay for the rest.
I see. Well, thanks for letting us know about this new urban aesthetic. Next, there is a clinic that has provided free healthcare for homeless people now, but they're facing risk of closure.
Right, so very important issue. So Busan Jin district has this clinic. It's called 사랑그루터기 Clinic that's been in charge of medical care for the homeless or the unhoused ever since the early 2000s. So it's been in operation for about 2 decades. So they received public funding from the city from 2005 to pay for the staff, but it's unclear what the city's budget will look like next year and whether that will include the money and the funding for this clinic. So because of the uncertainties, the clinic has tentatively decided to close after this year, meaning it'll only operate through the end of 2024. And actually, even this year, the clinic saw a pay cut from over 70 million won to a little bit over 60 million won. And when we're talking about a fairly small budget, that 1,000,000 won, the 10 million won, is a big cut. So this is because, unfortunately, they didn't receive high scores on the public stipends usage assessment. So that looks at whether a program met its goals that it intended, its efficiency, how much money it received, and whether that was deemed appropriate. But we don't know exactly what the assessment said.
But this does seem like it's such an important part of the city's welfare and also the social safety net.
Right. So, of course, as a taxpayer, as taxpayers, we do want to make sure that our money is being spent efficiently.
Right.
But efficiency sometimes isn't end all be all. Sometimes,
True.
it is a public project, so some things that you may see as kind of, to say it crudely, throwing money down the drain, but sometimes that money does need to go somewhere.
Sure.
So as for this clinic, about 1,500 homeless people visit it each year. So it has one doctor who goes on duty from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Friday, so Friday evenings, and there are about 10 doctors who take turns each week voluntarily, so they don't get paid. And then there are some pharmaceutical students that are helping out as assistants. And then during the weekdays, there's one employee who's on duty to hand out medicine to people who visit. So officials from the district and the clinic say once again that it's unclear what will happen until they figure out what the exact 2025 Busan budget looks like. However, they will look at the situation from multiple angles and see what they can do about it.
I see. Well, thanks for letting us know about the situation. All right, next, the education authorities are bringing in university staff and infrastructure for summer classes and childcare for elementary schools.
Right. So this is for the 늘봄 summer program. So 늘봄 schools being the public childcare plus education program for the city. So this, of course, it is summer vacation, and Busan City is bringing in professors to run these classes.
Really?
And I'm like, can I go? Because these sound like fun. All right, so the education office said that it's working with professors from 15 local universities ranging from Pugyang National, Dongi, the National University of Education, amongst others for these special summer classes.
Wow.
So professors will run classes based on their expertise and also what kind of infrastructure they have available at the schools, which of course is far more advanced than any elementary school. So what are we talking about? Band classes, self-defense classes at Kosin, paddle boarding at Pugyang National, cafe, barista, and cooking at Daedong University, creative architecture, golf, swimming, English with native teachers, drones, webtoons, so on and so forth. So seriously, once again, I mean, what's the age limit? What are we talking about?
Let's go.
Yeah. So the classes will usually take place on weekends, and I'm like, my weekends are free. So the educationer governor, Ha Yun-soo, he thanked the officials and the faculty from these universities for really pitching in, because it's their summer too, and it's their weekend. But they are coming in and helping out to help educate and really broaden the educational scope for the city's children.
What a great idea, whoever came up with this. I want to go.
Right?
I know. Haley and I are going to go in pigtails. We're going to sign up.
From very, very far away, I would blend in.
I don't know how I'll blend in, but anyways. For our final story, the Cinema Food Terrace, it's back.
Yeah, speaking of things I want to go to, so
Yes.
the 2024 Cinema Food Terrace is back, and this is a part of the Busan Food Film Festa that blends in culinary culture and film.
Yay.
So you can taste and eat the food that are featured in different films, and it goes from every weekend from July through October. So first, there's a program where you go on a yacht tour, and there's food, a film screening with local craft beer, and a cinema concert with a live performance from film soundtracks. So the yacht tours are actually scheduled for next weekend. The beer film screening is in August, and the cinema concerts in the fall, September, and October.
So, that's coming up real soon. Exciting. That's something we can go to.
We can.
We
yes,
won't get
we
kicked
are
out.
eligible to go.
All right. Thank you, Haley.
Thank
now
you.
back to you, the listeners. It's all about summer fun. First of all, do you get scared easily? Do you believe in ghosts? So many questions. And can you watch a scary film all by yourself? So answer those questions. And here is your traffic and weather. It is now 19 past the hour. And here is your traffic report. It is slow on Luno Samsungdaedo from Myeongji Underpass to Shino Bridge right now. It looks a little backed up on the Dongso Overpass from Hwangryum Ramp to the old Kaegum Toll Gate as well. And there's congestion also on Gwanmundaedo from the Pangnam Tunnel to Baegang Tunnel right now. It's currently 26 degrees Celsius under cloudy skies, but there is rain coming down in some parts of Busan right now. The daytime high will go up to 29 with, there's going to be a change of chances of rain coming down sporadically throughout the day here in Busan. However, heavy rain is coming down in the capital area, Chungnam and Gangwon, with up to 60 millimeters per hour. Heavy rain warnings and watches have been issued for many regions as well as landslide alerts. So please check the weather in your respective areas. There's also heavy fog along the southern coast. So please be careful when you're driving. This was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right?
It's time for News Digest. So with Haley, we're going to discuss our first story. It's all about rental scams. And I know we're still talking about this, right? Months on in. And how big are these scams exactly? We need to get like a bigger picture.
Right. So unfortunately, we have been talking about this for 2 years. They're still going on.
Yes.
So National Police Agency data shows that people across the country collectively lost 2.28 trillion won from rental scams. And we are usually talking about people who are in they're starting out. They're in their 20s and 30s, and that is the bulk of their life savings, plus loans. So this data was released by Democratic Party's lawmaker Park Jong-hyun. So the figures include all cases that have been passed from the police investigation to the prosecution to be indicted in the past 2 years. So in terms of sheer numbers, the highest figures were reported out of Seoul, followed by Gyeonggi and Busan. So basically in proportion to the population. But the thing is, these do not include cases that are currently under investigation. So the actual figure would be much, much larger. But this is the first time that we have ever had a comprehensive nationwide look at the extent of these rental scam damages from the last 2 years. So according to the police, a total of 14,907 people have filed for lawsuits for rental scams. And and in terms of the population ratio, interestingly, the highest ratio came from Daejeon, and that was by far. So we're looking at for every 100,000 people, there were almost 100 rental scam cases. And comparing that to the second highest, which was in Busan, unfortunately, that was 67 for every, that's 10,000 people. So quite a bit of a big difference there. So the lawmaker who released the figures, Park Jong-hyun, said that this amount of over 2.2 trillion won from one singular type of a crime, that should constitute a social disaster, and vowed to do her best to get the parliament to pass a special legislation on rental scam victim support.
So once again, the scope of this, 2.28 trillion won. Well, we're going to move on to our next story for now, but thanks for reporting on rental scams. As the fallout from the Chaetaewon 노소영 divorce continues, there may be new taxation imposed on former President Roh Tae-woo's slush funds now.
Right. So, this was the country's biggest divorce settlement, and then you bring in kind of the historical issues from the former authoritarian governments, and this is a huge story. So once again, this is Korea's historically most expensive divorce, and in the process of the procedures, the court admitted Roh So-young's attorney's arguments that her father, ex-president Roh Tae-woo, he passed on 30 billion won to the corporation Seonggyong, which is what SK was. So and that was in the early 90s. So the court used Roh So-young's mother, so Roh Tae-woo's wife, Kim Ok-suk's handwritten memo as evidence of this. this. So it had details about where the money would go. So the court accepted the assumption that that money was a slush fund, a hidden away fund from the former president. And that was the key in Do So-young getting the 1.3 trillion won settlement in asset division.
Sure.
But also in that memo that was written by her mother, it also detailed an additional 60.4 billion won distributed to her family members. So that one piece of paper brought to surface 90.4 billion won in alleged illegal slush funds from the former president.
All right, and enter the National Tax Service. So how does that factor into this whole story?
Right. So the NTS National Tax Service Chief's nominee Kang Min-soo is currently going through his confirmation hearing, and
Sure.
that's where this issue was raised. So during the hearing, Democratic Party's lawmaker Kim Young-hwan said that there is a high chance that this money came from illegal sources and called on the NTS to take stern action against it. So the nominee said that he will, of course, have to review, number one, the statute of limitations and relevant laws. But if this is indeed illegal funding from the Sixth Republic, which began with a military coup d'etat, then it may be taxed all these years later. So how? I mean, because like it or not, we do have this thing called statute of limitations.
Right.
But here's the thing. So there are two ways one can approach illegal funding.
Okay.
Number one, just taking back the illegal funds into the national treasury. We can't do that because the statute of limitations has run out on that. But taxation is different because under the law, it is once the state becomes aware of the fact that there was illegal means involved in inheritance, then it has up to 1 year from the date it found out that something illegal happened to impose taxes on it. So yeah, it kind of starts a clock from when it became known,
Aware.
not when it happened.
Okay.
So that would be May 30th when the divorce proceeding, the court admitted to that during the divorce proceeding. So we have until May 30th, 2025 to impose taxes on that 90.4 billion won of alleged illegal funding.
Interesting.
We could use the tax revenue.
We could. So
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll hear more
Yeah.
about this. Interesting. Well, thanks for expanding on this story. And now for a final one, the U.S. has suddenly brought up charges. I saw this story and I thought,
Really? Right.
like, you know, I'm sure there might be a movie about
I
this.
was going to say, when are the movie rights?
I know.
Yeah.
Against this woman whom they accuse of being an agent for South Korea in return for lavish dinners and handbags. And she's like a
She's a very well-known, very
I
well-established
know.
figure. Right.
I was just like,
so,
we need to get the lowdown on this story.
Right. So we're talking about the former CIA analyst Sue Mi Terry. She's been charged with having acted as an agent, and that is different from a spy.
Right,
And-
it's different.
Right, completely
Right.
different. Not to like a layperson, but I mean, if you're the person being charged in the eyes
Right.
of the law,
It
completely
is different. Right.
for the South Korean government. So this was revealed via a New York Times article, which cited indictments from the U.S. prosecutors. So she allegedly began operating as a foreign agent back in 2013, and that was 5 years after she left the CIA. But since then, she has become kind of the authority on North Korean matters and just sort of like an intelligence authority.
Yes.
So she was allegedly first contacted by a person who was posing as a minister for the Korean mission to the United Nations in New York. And the indictment alleges that the South Korean government gifted Ms. Terry, and these are very detailed, laid out, a $2,800 Dolce & Gabbana coat, a $3,400 Louis Vuitton handbag, and multiple meals at upscale restaurants, plus $37,000 for her to figure out a way to hide the source of the funds, which allegedly she channeled through a think tank funding.
Okay.
So as to what was she paid to do? She apparently made media appearances and wrote articles in both American and South Korean publications that reflected Seoul government's policy priorities. She also, and this might be the kind of the legalese of what got her, well, she testified before Congress on multiple occasions on North Korea, her being an expert. But when you do that, you have to sign a form that declares that you're not a registered foreign agent. So she allegedly lied on the form.
Okay.
So her attorney vehemently denies the charges as being unfounded.
Right. And so this is quite shocking because, we're talking about South Korea, U.S.
Right. And
relations.
usually these are not two countries where you would use foreign agents or you would
That term is
assume-
not thrown around.
Right. Because and especially recently because the two countries have been strengthening their alliance and cooperation
Sure.
across security and economics.
Right.
But others see this as like a completely separate matter from diplomacy, that it's more of a crackdown against former government officials working to help out a foreign government without registering as a lobbyist. So
I
this might
see.
be just a disclosure issue. So Terry's indictment actually comes just a day after a prominent Democratic senator, Robert Menendez, was convicted of pretty much doing the same thing, helping foreign governments in exchange for, although what he allegedly received was much, much more extravagant,
Like?
which includes gold bars and
I
a
remember this.
Mercedes-Benz
Yes.
car. But it also raises, going back to South Korea and the U.S., potential concerns about future of intel sharing between two countries, because that's something that's very much laid out in trust. So the Korean National Intelligence Service released a statement saying that it is closely communicating with U.S. intel authorities. And this is interesting because the NIS, not an agency that really explains its actions in detail, but in the statement, it said that the indictment is in relation to the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And the reason that it was so specific about naming the act is to make it clear that the charges are not about espionage, spy activities, but once again, foreign agents, which is different.
Right. And to clarify, she is a U.S. citizen.
She is, right.
She's American. That's
Right.
why she's being charged. Right. All right. Just wanted to clarify. And thank you for going over all the top news. We'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
And we are ready for our first song. Oh, I think you're going to like this one. How about this one? Ghostbusters by Ray Parker.
Something strange in your neighborhood. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! If there's something weird and it don't look good, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! I ain't afraid of no ghosts. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. If you're seeing things running through your head, who can you call? Ghostbusters! An invisible man sleeping in your bed. Oh, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! I ain't afraid of no ghosts. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! If you're all alone, pick up the phone and call Ghostbusters! I ain't afraid of no ghosts. I hear it likes the girls. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Yeah, 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 yeah. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! If you had a dose of a freaky ghost, baby, you better call Ghostbusters! just want some more. I think you better call Ghostbusters. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Think you better call Ghostbusters. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. I can't hear you. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Louder. Ghostbusters. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Who can you call? Ghostbusters. Who you gonna call?
Welcome back. Wherever you are, I hope you guys are all doing okay. So I've been looking at our chat room, especially on YouTube. And for those of you, especially in the Seoul area, I know it's coming down really, really hard. So please be safe, whether you are driving, walking, taking public transportation. All right, so today we're talking about the safety surrounding e-scooters or 전동 킥보드. The recent case in Goyang involving two teenagers who seemingly broke every rule in the book when it came down to riding e-scooters really irks me. So let's go through what the law says. First, for all electric personal mobility devices, you need to have a motorcyclist license. Basically, that means you have to be, first, over the age of 16 to ride it. You absolutely need to have a helmet. A bicycle helmet will suffice, but this is a rule that we often see people failing to follow. It is one person to one device, which means you can't have multiple people riding a scooter together. As for where you can ride it, well, you cannot go on the sidewalk, that is for sure. However, it is unclear whether scooters can go on the bicycle trail, and the police have inquired with the institution in charge. So we're going to have to wait for an answer on that. And when we get that answer, we'll relay that information to you because I'm really curious too. We're all unsure about that. And I think that's also adding to the problem because we don't have all the answers. So people are confused. But what we do know, you need a license, you need to wear a helmet, and it is, once again, one person to one device. You can't be riding together. Now back to our topic. I think it's a fun one. Are you into scary movies? Like, first of all, do you get scared easily? Like, are you kind of jumpy? Do you believe in ghosts? Can you watch a scary movie by yourself? Why are we talking about this? Because, summer, when it comes to summer, isn't summer usually the season of horror flicks? 네, 그래서 여름이라면 예전에는 그랬던 것 같아요. 공포의 약간 계절이라고 하지 않았나요? 요즘은 그렇지 않나? 그래서 특히 여름 때 되면 공포 영화가 많이 나왔어요. 특히 미국의 할리우드 하면 무조건 여름에는 공포 영화 개봉되고 했는데 그래서 여러분은 겁이 많으신지 우선 그리고 귀신 있을까요? 믿으시는지. 그리고 귀신하면 이거 제가 추가로 마음대로 붙이는데 귀신하면 우리 웨이버들 어떻게 이렇게 떠올라요? 그러니까 우리 해외 분들은 이렇게 이렇게 긴 이거 한복 with the white 한복 이렇게 white 한복 with the Korean 귀신 or do you think of the 귀신 not Casper the Ghost, but 외국 귀신 생각하시는지? And 공포 영화. Can you watch it by yourself? 혼자 볼 수 있는지? So it seems like most of you cannot watch horror movies. So as I look through your messages, I will read yours specifically in a little bit, but I want to get to our hot clip. I'll gather all your messages and I'll read them in a little bit. Here's your hot clip first. For today's hot clip, the Olympics are coming up real soon, right? Well, everybody has been worried about the River Seine. It's dirty, it's nasty, it's polluted. Will it be ready? Well, the mayor thinks so. Here's a clip from NBC News.
This morning, kicking off with a splash in Paris. Mayor Anne Hidalgo showing the world the River Seine, the centerpiece of the Olympic Games, is safe. The mayor taking the plunge, joined by the president of the Paris 2024 Games and other enthusiasts.
It's very cool, very, very nice, and it's amazing. It's amazing. A dream.
It's an Olympic Games that could turn back time.
Competitors in the 5-mile through Paris swim.
The Seine, once a watering hole for Parisians, has been banned to the public for over a century. Exceptions made for some organized events, including the triathlon test. Making it safe again has been a mission 9 years in the making, with a price tag of more than $1 billion. With a massive cleanup effort and a huge underground water basin that catches rainwater to reduce pollution, Paris officials say their efforts have been working. France's sports minister saying, "We've been dreaming of this, waiting for this." And some Americans testing it out for themselves.
So I've come back here to take a swim in the Seine before the Olympics. I'm very impressed with everything the French have done.
Although the quality of the Seine has occasionally been unswimmable after heavy rains. So the pressure is on with 2 Olympic events. The marathon and the swimming leg of the triathlon expected to take place in the river, along with an epic opening ceremony with athletes parading in boats down the Seine, the first time it's taken place outside of a stadium. An impressive endeavor that could make this year's Games one for the ages. And guys, look, cleaning a massive body of water like the Seine is pretty huge. So officials say that they're going to continue to monitor the levels leading up to and through the Olympic Games, but they are confident that they are ready for what is expected to be a memorable Summer Olympics. Guys, if only we could just keep this weather the way it is, that would be pretty clutch.
Oh, I love how she said it at the end. That would be pretty clutch. By the way, what does that mean? That would be pretty clutch. In this context, it means that would be pretty amazing. And it would be because people have been really worried. By the way, even though the mayor went into the River Seine, would you go in? We were having this discussion off air. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I would go in. However, the Olympians, they might still have to go in. Oh, well, I'll have to take the mayor's word for it. But I'm really excited. The Olympics are coming up soon. I love anything related to the Olympics. This was your hot clip for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
Hello, Lydia. Oh, by the way, this is Beyond the Headlines. I forgot to introduce her segment. I wanted to say hi to you because I want to get to our text topic.
Good morning, everyone.
Yes. Oh, your mic is so low. Hey, so can you get the mic closer?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, are you a fan of scary movies? Do you believe in ghosts? And 미국 귀신은 어떻게 생겼나요? Our PD wants to know.
Oh, I do love scary movies.
Can you watch them by yourself?
Yes. If I were to watch them, I would turn off all the lights and I would be in bed in the middle of the night. That's the only way to watch it.
In bed?
Yes.
This is important because I was writing on our YouTube chat board that if I watch, let's say at home or even in a movie theater, I need someone's arm to cling onto. Or at the very least, I at least need a blanket. I need something to cling onto.
Blanket. I would need a blanket.
Something to cling onto.
Cushion.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, I don't think I believe in ghosts. But
if you had to describe an American ghost, because the stereotypical Korean ghost, we have the 여고 괴담 kind of.
Yes, 처녀 귀신.
Yeah, the 처녀 귀신 always with the long straight hair, right?
It would be, so the ghost in America would be dressed in very old time clothes, like from the 1800s or something.
Oh, the 1800s.
Yes, and it would be like
faded kind of.
Yeah,
right?
and it would be like children will be involved. Like there would be children.
Children.
I feel like that's kind of always like the norm.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I see it. Oh, all right. Let's jump into our topic. What are we talking about today?
Yeah. So, are you, by any chance, dreaming of exploring new destinations without breaking the bank or harming our beautiful planet?
I always dream of it.
Because we're not Taylor Swift, also.
Yeah, I dream of it, but,
Well, then hear me out.
Okay.
Tourists thinking of traveling to Copenhagen, the capital city of Denmark, this summer are being offered a free lunch, kayak tour, or museum entrance by showing proof of their green actions.
Oh, really? How do you
that
show proof of your green action?
Right. So an initiative called CopenPay, like Copenhagen Pay,
Yes.
launched in July. What it does is it rewards tourists with free food and activities for helping out with environmentally friendly tasks, such as litter picking, getting around the city by public transit, or biking instead of renting a car or taking taxi rides.
Well, this is quite different than what we've been hearing from out of Spain. I covered this like even in our hot club they were like, protesting and spraying tourists with water.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I also heard about that too, that, a certain group of people, a so-called neighborhood assembly of 3,000 people that are basically protesting against over-tourism in Barcelona. Images flooded the internet of people squirting, you said, water guns at tourists or blocking hotel entrances with tape. They say their goal is tourism degrowth, meaning fewer tourist visitors and lessen the city's economic dependence on the industry. But if you consider over-tourism and how big of a problem it actually is, you wouldn't be so quick to judge the situation currently happening in Spain. Just to give you a quick rundown, in 2023, 80% of the world's tourists only go to 10% of the world's destination. Venice, Italy, is probably the most notorious example.
Right.
But other European cities like Barcelona, Amsterdam, Prague are badly affected. The problem doesn't just, make the life of the locals unpleasant, but also put a significant strain on the environmental stuff, and it's hurting the climate.
Right.
So many people flying into the same place degrades local ecosystems and natural defenses against the effects of climate change.
Right.
This in turn is causing worries that these oversaturated cities are going to be particularly vulnerable to climate change.
I do get it. I mean, everything that you're telling is true, and I feel for the residents there and the damage that tourists and over-tourism is doing.
Right.
It is real.
Right.
We can't get away from the facts. I mean,
Yes.
the data supports everything that you're saying right now. So.
Yeah, I mean, even just a lot of trash, like
Right.
simple as that. But, the city of Copenhagen had a different approach on tourism and keeping their environmental safe.
Yes.
The Danish people realized that there's a need to change the mindset and behaviors of tourists when it comes to sustainability and encourage them to make greener choices.
Sure.
One research on sustainability from last year found that 82% of its respondents say they want to act sustainably, but only 22% have changed their behavior. And we all ideally want to be greener and contribute better.
Sure.
But we don't really often know where to begin or something. I don't know.
Absolutely. So what is the city doing about it? How are they going about it?
Yeah, so they launched the initiative called CopenPay. It freshly launched this week. And the purpose of it, according to Visit Copenhagen, the official guide to the city, is to encourage visitors to act sustainably by transforming green actions. And by doing that, these actions turn into currency for cultural experiences.
Right.
So there are 24 companies participating, and apparently they're not paid by the government or anything. They're not incentivized. They're just offering free rewards for visitors because they want to promote these eco-conscious behaviors. these actions include you can rent a bike for free and around the city, emission free. Or you can participate in a cleanup efforts. You can just pick up litter. You can drink tap water instead of buying a plastic water bottle.
Okay.
You can also volunteer at urban farms. All these things you can sort of like easily do. Like on a daily basis, especially in Copenhagen, these are like normal things that people do.
Yes.
And as a reward, you have access to things like free kayak rentals or free vegetarian lunch made from local crops, free ice creams, or complimentary guided museum tours.
Right.
Yeah.
This is really, these are little things, but who doesn't want like a free kayak rental or like free ice cream?
Yeah, I heard that, like, for instance, visitors going to the National Gallery of Denmark with some sort of plastic waste, they can attend a workshop to turn that plastic waste into a piece of art. Or if you're riding public transport or a bike to Copenhagen's iconic heating plant grant, that sort of gives you this experience of skiing down the roof of its building. And that's like super cool.
Love it.
But how you show proof of that
right.
is really simple. All you have to do is just hold on to the tickets that you buy when you hop on the bus or the train, or you just take pictures of yourself picking up trash. That's how you
That's simple.
show proof. Yeah.
I love this idea.
Yeah, I know. It's
simple.
so cool.
And it's not like you have to show extensive proof. Just take a photo of yourself doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And to turn tourism from being like this environmental like burden into force for positive change.
Yeah, if so many people want to make positive changes,
yes,
they don't know where to start, especially when it comes to making, less environmental impact while you're traveling. You can try this. What Denmark is doing is like a very important step forward.
Right.
And it's like really cool. It's a cool way to interact with locals and how you move around when you get to the destination and like what you're consuming. So if you're interested in visiting Europe this summer, the City of Copenhagen will continue this program until August 11th. But apparently if it goes well, they might continue it for the rest of the year.
I have a feeling it's going to be successful. It's Copenhagen, right?
It's going to be so successful.
Right.
Yes.
Any other places around the world who are boosting or using this or trying this green tourism?
Yeah, I heard Costa Rica is very good about that. Mongolia as well. Switzerland. Estonia is blazing a trail in sustainable tourism. Also Norway, Australia, New Zealand, Sri Lanka, I heard, is also. But you can choose to get around eco-consciously, and I think that's what makes this Copen pay system really cool. It's not the government doing all these grand policy changes or implementing all these crazy stuff. But all they're asking you to do is, if you're visiting our city, we want you to drink a tap water instead of buying plastic water bottles. We can start green actions for Busan like today.
I think we
right
could do
now.
it. We could do it. We have to check on the water quality. I can't say for sure. I'm not a 공무원, civil servant.
We can get filters.
Yeah. Yes. But I think we should definitely look into it.
Yeah,
it would be great.
I want to ask you, what, Catherine, do you want to commit to today of doing something? One thing that could be
friendly,
conscious.
Well, I have stopped bringing in bottled water, and people heard me coughing today. But at the risk, I was coughing.
Where is your water bottle?
I stopped bringing in bottled water.
That's great.
I literally stopped bringing it in, and now I'll bring in a tumbler at least.
Oh my
I will.
gosh, plastic free.
Yeah, I've stopped. I used to bring in bottled water, but I stopped. So
that's amazing.
Yes. Well, we're gonna call it a wrap. Thank you so much. We'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Lydia.
Yeah, see you next week.
All right. Well, we're going to call it a wrap for hour number 1. So here is our final song for the first hour. This is Black Cat, 검은 고양이 by Turbo. Oh, that's me. Okay. See you in hour number 2. Bye.
Make it funky.
없어서 안 돼. 했더니만 글쎄 서럽게도 내 팔에 매달려서 뭐 우는 거야 그래서 나는 살짝 매달려서 제 손가락에 엄지도 던지군요. 그대는 귀여운 나의 검은 고양이 새빨간 리본이 멋지게 어울려. 그러나 어쩌다 뚜레져 버리면 얄밉게 할기여서 마음 상해요. 검은 고양이 내로 귀여운 나의 친구는 검은 고양이 내로 이랬다 저랬다 장난꾸러기 랄랄랄랄랄랄랄라. 담배는 피면 빨리 죽지 하면서 화내는 상처를 듣고만 아침은 내가 하기 나름이야 하면서 애교똥을 요 같은 뽕만 내일부턴 글쎄 유치원에 갔다 매요 놀러 오겠다며 나이 19육 내내는 뽕만 너무 귀여워서 답답하답다 안아주고 멋쟁이 그대가 사뿐히 걸어가면 무서운 고양이 뒤따라와요. 달콤한 꼬임에 속아서 간다면 후회를 한다 해도 나는 몰라요. 검은 고양이 내로 귀여운 나의 친구는 검은 고양이 내로 나의 친구.
혹시 지금 운전 중이신가요? 어린이 교통사고 피해자 수는 지난 3년 평균 약 9만 명. 특히 어린이 보호구역 안전 기준이 강화된 이후에도 어린이 보호구역 내 사고는 지속적으로 발생하고 있습니다. 스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
Hello everyone, I'm James from India. Ever since I was a young boy in India, I have been surrounded by different Korean products, and this instilled a dream in me to explore Korea one day. This chance came for me in 2014 when I began attending Busan National University as a graduate student in computer engineering. I have lived in Korea for over 7 years, and I even run my own business now, a company that is developing a platform based on artificial intelligence and blockchain technology. From my experience, I can say with an absolutely certainty that Busan was the best place for me to start my business, thanks to the specialized blockchain zone. In the past 7 years, Busan has become my second home and I obviously love it here. Global City Busan, we are in it together. This campaign was brought to you by BFM, 부산영어방송.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning, Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded.
What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock. This is News Highlights. Heavy rain pummels capital area with additional 200 millimeters forecast. Heavy rain of over 100 millimeters per hour came down over Paju and Ujeongbu as a heavy rain alert have been issued in parts of northern Gyeonggi. The rain prompted the Korea Meteorological Administration, or KMA, to issue the year's first torrential rain emergency alerts with over 500 people evacuating across 6 metropolitan cities and provinces. Further rain is forecast for today and tomorrow, with up to 200 millimeters coming down over the capital area and Chungcheong. Heavy rain warnings have been issued over Cheodwon in Gangwon, Yeoncheon, Paju, Goyang, Gimpo in Gyeonggi, and Incheon. KHNP selected preferred bidder for nuclear plants in Czech Republic. Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power, KHNP, has been selected as a preferred bidder to build 2 nuclear power plants in the Czech Republic, said the industry ministry yesterday. The Czech Republic had received binding bids from a South Korean consortium led by KHNP and France's EDF for the project to build nuclear reactors in Dukovny. If the deal goes through, this will mark South Korea's first overseas nuclear power plant project since the Barakai plant in the UAE in 2009. The industry ministry is hopeful that the deal will pave inroads into the European market for nuclear power plants. National Assembly Speaker proposes direct vote for constitutional amendment. National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-sik yesterday proposed the parliament to come up with a bill to revise the Constitution with the goal of holding a national referendum in 2026. In a speech celebration Constitution Day yesterday, Woo officially proposed President Yoon Suk-yeol to hold talks with the National Assembly to discuss the amendment. The DP has proposed amending the Constitution to allow for 2 four-year terms for the president. A constitutional amendment must be approved by 2/3 majority in Parliament, then by a majority in a referendum where more than half of eligible voters participate. Arrest warrant sought for Kakao's Kim Bum-soo for SM price rigging. Seoul's Southern District Prosecutor's Office has requested an arrest warrant for Kakao founder Kim Bum-soo yesterday over allegations that he attempted to manipulate stock prices for SM Entertainment. The investigation centers on suspicions that the mobile platform company and its executives manipulated SM stock prices in a bidding war it won in February last year against Hybe over the takeover of SM. Kim claims that he had been informed about the plans to buy SM shares, but not about the specifics. A hearing had been scheduled for next Monday. Kim's attorneys expressed grave regrets and denied any illegal acts on his part. U.S. shuts down floating Gaza pier as bombardment continues. The U.S. military has ended the $230 million floating aid pier off the coast of Gaza, which has been heavily criticized during its 2-month operation. While the pier brought in 8,100 tons of aid, it had to be removed multiple times due to bad weather, prompting a Republican senator to call it a national embarrassment. In the meantime, Israeli bombardment continues over Gaza, with at least 81 Palestinians killed in the last 24 hours. And this was News Highlights. It is now time for Issue Wa글. That means Haley's back in the studio with us.
Hello.
Well, our first story, not such a great one. A group of senior citizens seem to have been poisoned from duck meat they had for chobok earlier this week.
Right. So Gyeongbuk police said that they found traces of pesticide chemicals in the stomach of 4 women collectively that fell ill after eating duck meat at their senior center that was provided by a restaurant in Ponghwa in Gyeongbuk province. So initially there was this kind of a luncheon at a senior center with 41 members of the center, and there were, I believe, 5 people to a table. 3 women initially on the first day, all in their 60s and 70s, fell ill, and then a day later a 4th woman fell ill. So they showed serious symptoms like cardiac arrest and muscle paralysis, and the last woman is also in serious condition as well. So the doctors at Andong Hospital pumped the women's stomachs and sent samples from that to the National Forensic Service, and the forensics confirmed that there were traces of pesticide found. Unfortunately, all initial 3 women are still unconscious and in serious condition, apparently. So the police say that initially someone seemed to have put the pesticides in the food for that table only on purpose because no one else got sick, and they're investigating the case via CCTV footage. But they also got witness statements saying that the women who fell ill also had coffee later. So they're trying to figure out where the chemicals may have come from. So this is still kind of a bit of a huge mystery, and it is very alarming for this small town where residents say that they're all kind of, they're all family and they're all, close to each other. So the village is naturally in shock. The restaurant that provided the food, it is open and it's in business, and the owner said that it's all very shocking and baffling.
This is such a mystery. And of course, they're investigating, and I hope they get to the bottom of it to figure out what happened. All right, let's move on to our next story. There is a dispute over a public trail that cuts through an apartment complex right here in Busan.
Right. So there are actually a couple cases going on, two going through a similar issue. So you may see one. There may be one in your own neighborhood.
Okay.
There are usually public footpaths that go through apartment complexes. And the thing is, there are 2 in this particular case. The first apartment complex applied to the district office to install a screen door and walls and fences that would block outsiders from coming in. So that's fine, except then that would also block access to the public path, which is, once again, public property. So the district office turned it down, but the apartment actually still put up the screen door. So it's a gated community now. They did it anyway. The district office ordered the gates to be torn down because they saw it as a violation to the relevant laws.
Sure.
So what wound up happening, the head of the Residents Association paid a fine and the gate's still up.
Oh.
Right. So apparently they're allowed to do that. And we'll get to the legalese in a bit. So for the second apartment, the residents applied for and installed security doors and steel fences. So this is actually a common debate because if you have a larger apartment community that sit in the middle of populated areas, then there are usually roads or footpaths that go through.
Yes.
Or you could say they have been there before and the apartments were built around them. So the residents of the apartments say that having outsiders enter their property has drawbacks or risks like littering. Some people leave animal droppings behind, safety, noise. The concerns are mounting. However, others who don't live in that particular apartment but around the area say the road was there to begin with. You guys built up apartments around it. And especially if you are a child or if you have mobility issues, then, having that shortcut is actually really important.
Sure. Yes.
So there are actually apparently 29 apartment complexes in Busan that have these public pathways. And it is a particular problem for private apartments. So how do you deal with it? Well, you can't, kind of, because under the current law, the only way to deal with these gates or fences is to issue corrective orders for the districts to issue corrective orders for the structures being in violation of the law on national land usage, so basically public property. But as we saw in that case, essentially you pay a fine and you can leave the gates up to,
Oh.
Yeah.
But, okay. Aren't these roads included in the apartment plans to begin with?
Right.
And, second question, why is this an issue kind of now?
Because if you've ever driven past an apartment project,
right?
It takes years and years and years, and even years before planning it. And presumably they're expensive. They use professionals. So why? Well, because the professionals don't live there. So, it doesn't become a problem in the planning process because on paper, it's a road. It's fine. Why is it a big deal? But then friction comes up after people move in. They're like, why are there outsiders in our gated community?
Yes.
It's a bit of a NIMBY issue there as well. So, so then, there's all of that. So the city's urban planning and redevelopment says that they are working to have apartments plan a layout in a way that would minimize such conflict. Yeah, so there are.
Oh, I wonder if waivers out there they've ever experienced this.
Right.
It's probably much more common than, I don't know if it's only just 29 or they have.
Right. So for example, I live in an apartment that doesn't have a gate. So people go through and I'm like, it's a big enough community where I'm like, I don't know if you live here, if you don't. Also don't really care. But there are issues, especially because I think if you do live in an area where it's a carless apartment and then there are security concerns, and then there are parking disputes too. So I get both sides.
I don't know. I live in a gated one and then every so often they change the code. Because I guess kids give out the code to their friends. I'm
kids don't have secrets.
But for me, I'm just kind of can you stop changing the code? Because I have to remember and or input it somewhere. I don't know. I don't know about the whole.
It's a conundrum.
Yeah, it is. All right. Next up, we talked about this briefly yesterday, but Wolverhampton FC's Hwang Hee-chan, he was the target of this racist comment, and let's delve into this.
Yeah. So I have thoughts. So Wolverhampton Wanderer FC, they posted on their website after the match that a defensive for Italy's Como 1907 club, called Hwang Hee-chan Jackie Chan. Seongyong, which is the actor, love the guy, don't appreciate being called that when you're not Jackie Chan. Or specifically, he told his teammates to ignore Hwang because he thinks he's Jackie Chan. So there's club,
so many.
Oh my god,
so many different.
First of all, Korean, Chinese, there's a love, having been a child in the States where, where people would greet you in Japanese or Chinese, love being confused as a different national. But so this is the official explanation from the club that the defender didn't mean it in a racist way. Sure. We have more.
Okay.
Yeah. Explain the Wolverhampton teammates. They consistently called Hwang Hee-chan Chani or Chani, if you're using an anglicized pronunciation.
But his name is Sunny.
Hwang Hee-chan.
Chan. Yeah.
So it's, Chani.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they thought it was okay to call him Jackie Chan.
Which is not.
So
we laugh at the absurdity.
I'm baffled. This is a laughter from being baffled.
Absurd.
And further baffled that this is the official explanation.
From the football club.
From the football club. And I'm like, do you not have maps? Just middle school geography? I don't know. So Como added that the players never said it in a derogatory manner, and they found it disappointing that some Wolverhampton players blew it out of proportion. One guy punched the guy.
He got a red card.
Right.
Yeah.
And also added that the club does not tolerate racism. But I'm also like, there is malintended racism, but ignorance is also a form of racism.
Ignorance is not an excuse, is it? I don't know.
Not knowing the
In
difference
these
between
days?
a Chinese actor and a Korean football player, for me personally, comes off as ignorant.
And so how did Hwang respond to this?
Right, because it is racism, I believe, is in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
Being racisted towards. So on his Instagram, he wrote, racism is intolerable in sports and all aspects of life.
Right.
He also expressed his appreciation to his teammates and coaching staff who immediately came up to him and said they will walk out of the field and they will stand up for him and with him. But yeah, so he wanted to continue on and appreciated that. So in a very classy post you can see on our
That I
YouTube.
appreciated.
Yeah.
Because, they could have just said, it's okay. But they said, right now, we'll walk off the field if you feel uncomfortable.
Exactly.
That I appreciated. Anyhow.
Yeah. Good on
Kudos.
Wolverhampton.
Yes, the Wolves. I started following the team because of that. All right, yesterday was Constitution Day, which used to be a holiday way back when. But I guess it could be one in the future.
Fingers crossed, knocking on wood.
Another holiday.
Here's the thing.
Yes.
Between June and all the way through Chuseok, there are no public holidays in the summer.
Oh,
and
that's just too long.
Right?
Yes.
And if you look at the calendar, it's just all
no red days.
No red days. So 대헌절 Constitutional Day is the only national day that's not a public holiday. Right. So that's unfair. Why'd we leave it out?
Right.
Well, we didn't because it was a public holiday for 58 years, ever since 1949 when the first constitution was enacted. But it was left out in 2008. And this has to do with kind of public perception on productivity. So because that's when, if you remember, this is when the 5-day work week really started to settle and businesses and industries were concerned that having too many, an excessive number of days off, there is no such thing. Right. Having an excessive number of holidays would lead to reduced productivity.
Oh, we would be just too lazy.
Right. If you're just too lazy, you're not working enough. This is Korea. No one's not working enough. Anyways, President Lee Myung-bak back then removed it as a public holiday. By the way, Constitution Day celebrates, of course, the enactment of the Constitution of the Republic of Korea. But important to remember, July 17th was also the day that Joseon Dynasty was founded in 1329. So they actually timed it to coincide with that day, with the coronation of Lee Seong-ge as King Taejo. In any case, going back to the current times, this is the one thing that the ruling and opposition parties seem to agree on. And they haven't agreed on much in the past month.
True.
So they've introduced a bill to redesignate Constitutional Day as a red day to guarantee the people's right to rest and give the people an opportunity to remember what this day is about. By the way, a public opinion survey from last April showed that in terms of the days that people would like to see designated as holidays, number 1 was Parents' Day and number 2 was Constitution Day.
Both.
Yeah, why not both?
Is that asking for too much?
Although I have seen comments saying that can we not have Parents' Day as a red day because then
you
there's
just
an
spend time with your kids.
obligation. But I have no obligation about Constitution Day.
Right.
I will read the Constitution on that day. Yeah,
I'm okay with that too.
Right.
Oh, well, here's looking forward to maybe that passing. Fingers crossed, the parties, they agree on that. So let's, work on that. We will wrap things up for today. So thanks for going over all the hot issues. We'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Haley.
Have a great day.
All right. Now it's time for our updated traffic and weather. It is now 8:18. This is your updated traffic report. There was an accident on Gayadero from Kaegum to Jure intersection right before the Jure intersection between a bus and a car. There was also an accident on the Yeongju overpass going toward pier number 5. This was a 2-car collision towards the end of the overpass. So there is a considerable backup because of these 2 accidents right now. There's also congestion on Gwangan-daegyo going towards Namcheon. That's on the Gwangan Bridge right now. It's looking slow on Yeonsuro from Suyong to Mangmi intersection as well. As for the weather, it is currently 27 degrees under cloudy skies, but there is rain coming down in parts of Busan. The daytime high will go up to 29 degrees with chances of rain coming down sporadically throughout the day. And as we've been telling you throughout the morning, heavy rain is coming down in the capital area, in Chungnam and Gangwon as well, with up to 60 millimeters per hour. Heavy rain warnings and watches have been issued for many regions. The Korea Forest Service has issued the highest landslide alert level of severe over Seoul, Incheon, Gyeonggi, and Gangwon. So please be careful out there today. This was your traffic and weather.
terrorize your neighborhood. And whosoever shall be found without the soul for getting down must stand and face the hounds of hell and rot inside a corpse's shell. I'm gonna do it tonight. Stench is in the air, the funk of 40,000 years, and grisly ghouls from every tomb are closing in to seal your doom. And though you fight to stay alive, your body starts to shiver, for no mortal can resist the evil of the thriller.
Welcome back. I'm sure everybody was kind of, were you guys all dancing to have you seen the video? Yes, of that song. That was Michael Jackson's Thriller as requested by Marcos. So last time we're going over our text topic, basically scary movies. Do you believe in ghosts? Do you get scared easily? Looking at some of your messages, and I have a compilation of your messages. 태준 says this. 저는 귀신은 절대 안 믿어요. 믿는 순간 제가 아는 과학은 무너지니까요. 공포 영화는 심리적으로 조여오는 영화 무서워하면서 좋아해요. So basically he says, I don't believe in ghosts because the moment I believe in ghosts, everything I believe in, the science, everything crumbles. So that's why he does not believe in ghosts. And in terms of horror movies, he says, like psychologically, it's like it kind of like it cripples him, but he enjoys, yes, scary movies. What about this message from 고수, who says, 한국 귀신은 못생긴 처녀 귀신이 대표적인 것 같아요. Oh, really? You think that Korean 귀신's are like ghosts are not pretty? I think they're actually really pretty, eerily pretty though. Like 예쁜데 되게 they always have some kind of like 한, like, you know, something like in terms of like they've been some sort of like this injustice has happened to them, right? And I don't know about the 남자 귀신. And do they always have to be pretty? Is a question in my mind, right? No, I don't think they have to be pretty. Lee Kelly, who says, I hate horror movies. Life can be scary enough. Why pay for something you can get for free? 혜연, our 혜연, 우리 혜연님. 혜연 says this, popping in to chime in on my favorite topic in the whole world, scary movies. She says, I absolutely love all sorts of scary movies, but if I watch them by myself, I need to take frequent breaks going around the house, turning on all the lights and doing 순찰. 혜연 씨 아시잖아요. For sitting inside 집 돌아다니면서 불 다 켜야 된대요. 순찰 다녀야 된대요. And she says ghosts and spirits are real. For sure. I love it. She's so New York. She's a New Yorker. So yes. Tommy says, I'm not scared of any types of ghosts. Recently, human beings are scarier. That's true. That is true. One more. 최윤정 waiver. 저는 특히 컴컴한 정말 겁이 많아요. 컴컴한 거 무서워하고 무서운 영화 혼자서 안 봐요. Yes. 태진 waiver. 캐서린 차은우 총각 귀신 봐도 무서울까요? 차은우 씨는 뭐래도 뭐 he's always pale. 항상 하얗잖아요. 뭐래도 안 무섭죠. He's welcome anytime, any day, 24/7. And 조현철님 귀신 영화 잘 봐요. 뭔가 사람 몸이 분리되는 종류의 공포 영화만 아니면 잘 봐요. Yes. And 차은우님은 he's talented. 잘생겨서 그런 거 아니에요. Anyhow, I'll be back with our special interview. For today's special interview, we are going to be taking a look at the economy because we have been telling you the number of businesses that have closed down last year, coming to an all-time high. Small businesses are considering further closures in the face of the minimum wage. Slated for next year, we've told you, 10,031. Record high. At the same time, workers are groaning that inflation is growing faster than their wages can ever catch up to. So, can we say that the state of the overall economy is still looking on the up and up? Or is it up in the air? Let's find out more about what may lie ahead. We have invited back to our program Professor Yang Jin-suk, economics professor at the Catholic University of Korea. Hi, Professor. Welcome back.
Happy to be here.
Yes. So let's begin with kind of the big picture. So both the OECD and the Korean government have projected a 2.6% economic growth for this year, which is an uptick from the government's previous projection. So what can you tell us, Professor, about this? What may have led to this kind of increase?
Well, the direct reason is that we had such a good first quarter. It was 1.3% growth. If you compare that to last year, the entire year's growth last year, revised version, is 1.4%. So we had a tremendous amount of growth in the first quarter of the year. And the big factor there was exports. During the first half of the year, exports grew by 9.1%. And exports is about 40% of GDP. Imports fell by about 6.5%. Now, if you can argue whether falling imports are good or bad for the economy, but mathematically declining imports mean higher GDP growth. And the trade increase came from semiconductors and automobiles. Semiconductors especially exports have increased tremendously, partially because last year's semiconductor exports were so low because of the hoarding by users that had happened in the previous years, but also increased investment through AI, and they need a lot of chips. Geographically, exports to China is recovering. It's still not back to the highs that we saw in 2022, but it's higher than 2023 so far. And inflation may be helping because the prices of these exports in dollar terms have gone up because of inflation. Exports have been the driver of the increased growth rate, but consumption was projected to be relatively high. First quarter consumption growth was 0.7%, which is not great, but it's not that bad either. So OECD, as well as other research groups, both inside and outside the country, their growth rate is revised, usually around 2.5 to 2.6%. But whether we'll achieve that really depends on how consumption turns around.
I see. With this growth, though, it seems like there's always this kind of tricky balance with inflation, the rising cost of living, and then there's also the benchmark interest rate. What are the signs? Where are the signs pointing to in terms of the Bank of Korea? Is there a possibility of lowering the rate? Professor, what do you think?
There is a possibility, but we're going to probably do it after the United States. Or if we do it before, then we need a very clear signal from the United States that they are going to lower the interest rate. The usual excuse for maintaining high interest rate is inflation, but Korean inflation for June was 2.4% over 12 months and minus 0.2% for just the month of June. Core inflation was 2.2%. That's very close to the Bank of Korea's goal of 2.0%. So inflation is not really the reason why the government is or the Bank of Korea is maintaining high rates. It's probably more due to the currency market. Currency market has been very unstable lately. In this year, the won has lost about 6.6% of its value. And a lot of that is because the U.S. interest rate is right now higher than Korea, even though U.S. is a safer investment. And another reason would be household debt, increasing household debt and increasing housing prices. Even though the Bank of Korea is maintaining a very high interest rate, the market interest rate has been falling, partially because of anticipation that the Bank of Korea is lowering the interest rate very soon. So if the Bank of Korea lowers the rates too soon, then it's going to make all these problems worse. So I think Korea is going to wait until U.S. drops the rate. Right now, that seems to be in September, which means Korea will drop its rate probably in October. But as with the United States in the last year, everybody seems to be too optimistic that the Fed will drop the rates soon. There's a good possibility that the Fed will not lower the rates until November, or even not lower the rates entirely this year, which means Korean interest rate drop may be delayed until, at the worst case, next year.
I see. Well, on top of all of this is the government's reform of the inheritance tax and the comprehensive real estate tax as well. The government has not announced the specifics, not yet, but what options are they potentially considering?
Okay, well, the reason that inheritance tax is such a problem has to do with housing and stocks. For housing, the comprehensive, the housing, the inheritance tax is a form of a transaction tax you pay when you buy or sell a housing unit. And there's been some evidence that the transactions tax, related tax in Korea is too high, while property taxes are too low compared with OECD standards. And that's keeping the number of transactions low, which may be one reason why the Korean housing prices are too high. And then for comprehensive real estate tax, it was originally designed to affect the only so-called ultra-rich, but because housing prices have gone up so much in the last 5 years, it's beginning to affect middle-class housing owners as well. So both of those are up for reforms. And then I mentioned the stock problem. Inheritance tax also covers the cases where a parent who owns a company, if they want to pass their firms to their sons or daughters, they also have to pay an inheritance tax. And sometimes the inheritance tax is so high that the parent cannot afford to pass the companies on to their sons or daughters. So that company sometimes goes out of business. So the government is considering first lowering the inheritance tax rates, maybe perhaps replacing some of that revenue with capital gains tax, which is only which is only charged when you sell your assets at a profit, and then eliminating or vastly reducing the comprehensive real estate tax, or combining it with existing property tax, which I think is a better idea. But still, because a lot of Korean public still feels that this type of property tax, comprehensive real estate tax, inheritance tax is necessary to reduce income and wealth disparity, the government is going to have a very hard time.
Yes, yes. Can we switch gears a little bit, Professor, and talk about more about the small businesses? Because so many small business owners have shut their doors. The government has announced support package for small businesses earlier this month. Maybe you can go over some of the major points for this support package.
Okay, well, support package announced covered about 25 trillion won. The bulk of that would be used for financial assistance and extended loans. You can divide that into two large categories. 14 trillion won will be used for direct financial assistance to micro and small businesses, while 10 trillion won would be used to increase the current New Start Fund from 30 trillion to 40 trillion won. This loans are designed to extend existing loans, provide loan guarantees, and reduce utility bills and delivery costs for small businesses. The New Start funding is designed to keep marginal firms, the so-called zombie firms, which do not earn enough money to pay back even the interest on their existing loans for multiple years, if they need to continue operating, or sometimes, this is a very strange thing about Korea, but you actually need a lot of money to go out of business. So even if you're better off going out of business, you can't because you cannot afford to go out of business. And this New Start funding does have a component where, if necessary, they will lend you money to get out of business. And I think personally that's a good thing because Korea perhaps has too many marginal, small, and micro-sized firms. Partially, it's because previous government policies, which always provided low-interest loans to these failing businesses under the idea that it's always good to make a firm survive rather than letting it go out of business. But as a result, Korea has perhaps too many marginal firms and small micro firms compared to other OECD countries. So having an easier process where if they feel it's necessary to go out of business, I think is a good idea. Part of the reason why these small firms, micro firms, are having such a difficult time is that, frankly, they should have gone out of business earlier, but because they were receiving so much government aid, they did not go out of business. But even under normal times, then these firms will not be doing well, and even under normal times, they will be hard maintaining their business. So we do need this type of structural reforms where firms which cannot stay in the market should get out of the market and use that resources to give perhaps more efficient firms a chance to survive or be creative.
Yes. And lastly, I want to talk about the fact that we are going to see for the first time ever here in Korea a minimum wage that does go over that 10,000 won minimum wage mark, 10,031 to be specific. What can we expect next year?
Okay, well, it did cross the psychologically important 10,000 won mark, but I think what's much more important is the rate of increase, which is only 1.7%. And inflation this year is expected to be 2.6%. So the real value of the minimum wage will come down by about 0.8%. But I think that's a good thing. I don't want to sound too much like Grinch here, but there has been some evidence that perhaps minimum wage in Korea is too high. For example, a lot of jobs are being replaced by automation. And then when the president talked about childcare, he mentioned that we would perhaps import some childcare providers, but couples will not be able to afford them if they're given minimum wage. So that kind of signals that perhaps minimum wage is too high. If we compare it to other OECD countries, well, if you earn the minimum wage for a full-time job in Korea, that would give you approximately 68% of a per capita GDP. That was second highest in last year. This year, we're the sixth highest. But some of that is because some Eastern European countries have readjusted their minimum wage, and perhaps under the assumption that in these countries, minimum wage workers will not get a full-time job. It's set, minimum wage is set very high. But still, if you're working at a full-time job at minimum wage, the Korean wage minimum wage is actually not that bad compared to most other countries. But the converse side of that is that people are not getting jobs because, well, labor is too expensive. So setting the minimum wage below inflation rate for maybe a year or two may be a way to reduce burden on the firms so that they will hire more unskilled workers. But obviously, the current minimum wage workers, as well as workers overall, because the rate of increase in the minimum wage will affect wage negotiations overall, they may not be happy about it.
I see. Well, we're going to have to see what does happen on many of these different fronts. But thank you so much for joining us and taking a look at what might happen in the second half of this year. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us today.
Thank you.
This was our special interview with Professor Yang Jun-seok. It is now time for Skills 101. We have Jennifer here.
Hello, how are you?
Pretty good. It feels like a Wednesday, but it's a Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
For people who may be confused.
It's very humid outside.
I know. Like our hair.
Yeah, it's so freezy.
Freezing. I had to put like special enriching oil in my hair this morning.
I did as well, but it's not
it's
enough.
Doing all kinds of like. Yes. So what are we talking about today for Skills 101?
Today I brought a rather profound and thought-provoking topic for our discussion.
Oh.
That is what people regret the most before they die and top bucket list items.
Oh, we're talking about bucket lists?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you guess what people commonly regret the most before they die?
I don't know.
Oh,
I'm so curious. I mean, I'm sure there are many regrets, but I don't know what the most common ones are.
Are you the type of person who has many regrets about the past? Or do you try to live without any regrets?
Oh, of course I have regrets. Yeah. But I try not to have regrets, but it's difficult because like always when you they say hindsight is 20/20. When you look back, of course you have regrets.
Of course.
Like I shouldn't have said that, or I should have done this.
Yeah.
Yes.
But nowadays I try to focus more on the present.
Of
now.
course.
Yeah.
Right. So let's get into it. Tell us more.
So there have been numerous studies and books on this subject.
Yes.
One of the most referenced sources is a book by Bronnie Ware, a nurse who recorded the regrets of the dying. People dying, yeah. So I will share the top 5 regrets from her book.
Yes.
Top of the list is not having the courage to live a life true to themselves.
Ooh.
That is top of the list.
Okay, tell us more.
Many people realize too late that they have lived their lives according to others' expectations. Your partner's expectation, teacher's expectation,
your
parents' expectation, rather than pursuing their own dreams and desires. This regret highlights the importance of self-fulfillment and self-satisfaction.
Okay, so that's one regret. What's another one?
Okay, the second regret is not expressing their true feelings.
I think this is especially maybe for our Korean culture.
Oh, yeah.
Hiding feelings, right?
Exactly.
So does it mean they're hiding or suppressing their feelings?
Oh, yeah, sort of. Many people wish they had been more open about their emotions. Whether it was to resolve conflicts, express love, or simply share their true thoughts, or just to say, I love you, I'm sorry, thank you, Suppressing feelings often lead to missed opportunities for deeper connections. Oh, I should have said that,
Yes, it does make sense. So what's also on the list?
The third on the list is working too hard.
Really?
Yeah.
Not the
Isn't it
opposite.
interesting?
Not working hard enough, not being too lazy. Working too hard.
Working too hard.
Tell us more about this one.
Many people regret spending so much time of their lives focused on work and studies on the expense of family, friends, and personal hobbies. They make sacrifice, right? So this regret emphasizes the need for a better work-life balance.
Wavers out there, listen up. If you're working too much, yes, listen.
Yes, of course, it's not like, I should have been more lazy. Don't get me wrong,
But working too much.
Balance. There has to be a balance.
Okay, what about the fourth one?
The fourth regret is losing touch with friends.
This is my biggest one.
Oh, yeah.
Having come to Korea, I feel like I lost touch with my closest friends. I tried to keep in touch with them, whether it's through email or FaceTime. But it's been tough. It's been too far and too in between.
I mean, we are constantly thinking about them.
No, yeah. And then, I do keep in touch with them, but it's not the same. It's really difficult.
It's not the same. It's
right.
not the same. People often let important friendships fade due to busy schedules or lack of effort. So this regret highlights the value of maintaining strong, supportive relationships throughout life.
Sure.
Yeah, but I know it's not easy.
right. And so what about the last one?
The last
regret?
one. The fifth regret is not allowing themselves to be happier.
This is interesting. I think we need an explanation for this one.
Many people realize that happiness is a choice and that they often stayed stuck in old patterns and habits that prevented them from enjoying life to the fullest. You know how we always complain and wish for a better life. This regret shows the importance of embracing joy and positivity.
Interesting. Okay. So not really being in the moment and being happy. Interesting.
Yeah.
So why don't we shift gears? And you mentioned bucket list, right?
Yep. Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
So why don't we go to the bucket list?
So let's shift to a more positive note before we start feeling down and sad. Can I ask you what's on your bucket list? I know it's not easy to think of something off the top of your head.
No. I definitely.
One. Yeah.
I have the biggest regret I have is when my dad offered me. He said, "Kat, I'm all expense paid. You can go anywhere in the world."
Oh, wow!
For however long you want. He offered to send me on a trip by myself.
What a generous man!
I don't know what I was thinking, and I said, "Oh, but I don't want to go by myself, Dad." So stupid me. I want to if I could kick myself in the head, I would now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I so regret it. That's on my bucket list to travel by myself.
To travel by yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, important one.
That's on my bucket list.
Bucket lists often reflect people's deepest desires and dreams.
Okay.
So based on various surveys and articles, the top 5 bucket list items typically include seeing the Northern Lights, going on a safari tour in Africa, visiting the Great Wall of China, skydiving, taking a cruise. How many of these have you experienced?
I've done the cruise. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, in my case, I've done the one, seeing the Northern Lights. But except that, I still haven't
really?
met the 4 on the list. Yeah.
I see. So I guess here in Korea, bucket list, all right, one of the biggest regrets is not spending, I guess, enough time with family is the biggest regret. Aww.
And
is it because of overwork, I'm thinking? Because for many people, it might have to do with in Korea, there's that overwork culture. It's kind of ingrained in us.
Too busy, right? Next time.
It's always kind of when you think about it, though, it's probably because of family. You're trying to work because you want to make more or do better for the family.
And
it
also,
could be.
when you're young, you're too busy studying, right?
이제 눈물 날 것 같아.
I can relate to your bucket list. Though.
Right.
A friend of mine always dreamed of visiting France alone. Not with friends or family. Yeah, she finally decided to make it happen last year. And? She saved up, planned meticulously, and spent 3 weeks immersing herself in the culture, food, and history of France. And it was a transformative experience for her.
And
she returned with a renewed sense of purpose and joy. And she often says it was one of the best decisions she ever made. And when she returns, she could be nicer to her family and friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with more positive energy, Because she always said I sacrificed myself for this and that, for this person and that person,
And she came back a better person for it.
Oh, yeah. So
I'm thinking about when should I leave? Should I pack my bags now?
It's never too late. It's never too late. So my advice will be start small and be intentional. Write down your goals and dreams, no matter how big or small. Break them down into manageable steps and take actions towards them, even if it's just a little bit at a time. You don't have to do it all at once. Or don't wait until the perfect moment, perfect timing, because it may never come.
I think that's key. That's like, there will never be a perfect moment to pack up your bags and leave and say, when this is done, when, this is completed, when, there will never be a perfect time.
So people, start now and make your dreams a priority. Life is too short to live with regrets.
If I don't show for work one day, no.
We know where you are.
I'll be somewhere. Enjoying myself. Well, thank you so much for kind of, I don't know, I just feel like revitalized just thinking about it. Traveling by myself, bucket list, and no regrets.
No regrets.
All right. Well, thank you, and we'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Jennifer.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Well, for you waivers out there, wherever you are, whether it be here in Busan, whether you're in the capital area where it is raining down really hard, whether you're in the States, please be safe out there today. Final song, 이 밤이 지나면 by 임재범. Have a great one. Bye, everybody.